Well, it's getting a little bit chilly down here in the barn. I'm going to leave my sweater on today. I'm sure it's going to get a lot colder. But let that be. I'll talk more about that later. Let's start today with class vocabulary. This in some years this became automatic. It was immediately the way I would start my class. Turn to page 17.1. That's right, 17.1. The class's vocabulary words. And today what I'm doing is I'm drawing words from a guy named Greg, a former student named Greg. I'm sure he's an adult now. I won't give you his last name, but he left his notes behind, and all three of these words are his words. So thanks, Greg. So I would say to the class, who's got a word? Greg would raise his hand and say, skulks. Okay, I'd write it down, and then I'd check, did I get that spelled right, Greg? And he'd look and say, yep, you got it right. And I would then underline it and tell the class, okay, all of you can write that down. What's your context? He skulks into port. Okay, I'll write that down with an ellipsis on both sides. Now I noticed when I looked back at students' notes that they left behind, very often they did not have the documentation, the source. So I can't tell you where Greg got that word. And I didn't have the students write it down in their notes. I just insisted that the kids be ready to tell me if I asked. And a lot of times I didn't ask. But somewhere he ran into that word. And I'd say, okay, what part of speech is it? You ought to be able to tell that, and the kids should be able to come up with verb. It's a verb. He does it. It's an action. He does it. Right. He skulks into port. Okay, does anybody know what the word means? And I would ask around, and in a case like this, they might not. They might not. But eventually I'd go back to, they might guess. I'd say, come on, give it a guess. And Greg would say, okay, it means move stealthily and quietly. Good, that'll work. And I might have also said by now, oh, I love words like this. I love little words. I love words that are just one syllable. Those are the best for me. Anybody know what it comes from, what language? And they would be all over the place because they wouldn't know yet. Some might guess Latin, some might guess French, some might guess Spanish. I would point out that there's a K in there, S-K. You don't see that. That looks a little unusual. And I might actually have guessed correctly. I might have said Norwegian or something like that. But Scandinavian, Greg says, that's what it comes from. So one of those Scandinavian languages. Now in Greg's notes, he also noted down when did it first show up in the English language written? 13th century. I don't recall if Merriam-Webster website gives that or not. It might, but the dictionary he was using did. Nice work, Greg. All right, thank you. Anybody else have a word? Well, Greg is shining today, so he raises his hand. I got another one, boisterous. And I spell it, and I can usually spell them right. The kids like to watch because I can't, remember these are words, I don't have the list already. I'm fielding them as they're given me. Boisterous, do I have it spelled right? Greg looks, yep, you got it right. Which syllable is stressed and how many? Well, hopefully a kid will say, well, there's 3, and the first one is stressed. It amazes me that a lot of times kids can't automatically hear that. It's not boisterous, it's not boisterous, it's boisterous, and then they'll hear it. Boisterous, loud, the context is loud and boisterous and insincere. Thanks, Greg. Anybody know what it means? And they might or might not. I would think maybe they wouldn't know that one, not automatically. But eventually I'd get back to Greg and he would say rowdy. Now rowdy's a word that it's used around here a lot as almost part of the dialect. I guess it's standard English, but anyway, rowdy worked for my class, but for the rest of you I might say, well, it means noisy in an unpleasant way or something like that. But rowdy absolutely worked here, so there we go, rowdy. What language did it come from? Well, they guessed all over the place, and eventually Greg says, well, all it said was Middle English. Yeah, me. I say, well, then they don't know. If that's true, they don't know where it came from. It just first appeared in Middle English. Matter of fact, 14th century, says Greg. That's when it appeared. That OI looks so much like French. My own guess would have been that it was French. and the OUS at the end, it looks like it bears the mark of Latin or French, but well, sometimes I'll go check. I'll say, are you sure you had that right? And maybe it said Middle English, but he didn't copy out the rest that it got there from Latin. I don't know. Mostly I'm trying to make kids aware that words do have histories, and they're called etymologies. All right, thanks, Greg. Nice going. One more word. So we have 3 today. Anybody? Greg raised his hand. It's his day. Bourgeois. Oh, he probably didn't. He might or might not have pronounced that right. Bourgeois. And I would spell it if I could, and I think I could. His context is loaded bourgeois type. And I need an ellipsis here to show that it went on. Bourgeois. Okay, what part of speech is that? Can you tell? Well, eventually I would get that. I mean, it's describing type. What kind of type? It's a bourgeois type, so there's an adjective. Oh, and boisterous is an adjective as well. That you could get because loud describes, insincere describes. So boisterous probably describes. It's part of a list. All right, anyone know what it means? Probably they would not know. And I don't know what his source was. As I told you, I can't tell you. In the heat of the moment, I might ask him, where did you get the word? But I don't have the kids write it down. Of the middle class. Where does it come from? And I would point out that should be pretty obvious, that it at least bears the mark of a certain language. And eventually they might say French. Yep, French. First appeared 1564. That surprised me. Because, the communists were so into the bourgeois, but apparently it was an older word. Bourge is a word that means town. All right, thank you, Greg. Okay, now, can anybody take that first word, put it into a sentence? Skulks. So kid raises his hand. He skulks into class. Good. Anyone else? And I'd usually get three kids that could show me they could use the word. And they didn't always use it right. I'd have to correct it. How about boisterous? Can anyone use that? Tommy is boisterous. I'll say, nah, wait a minute. I don't want you using kids' names in class, because then all you do is get interested in throwing back and forth what you can say about somebody else. So let's just say the student in the class was boisterous. Okay, yeah, and I'll get several more. Boisterous. The cafeteria is very boisterous. And a lot of times I'll get sentences that don't really work, and I'll have to point them out and try to explain it more. But I also have to be very forgiving with this, because kids are working with new words. How about bourgeois? Some kid raises his hand. I am bourgeois. And I say, well, that is okay, but is there enough there to prove to me that you know what that means? That's what you got to do on Friday's quiz. Prove it to me that you know what it means. Okay, well, then the guy who earned $50,000 a year was bourgeois. Good. Well, whatever, I'd take 3. And I say, can anyone take 2 and put it into a sentence? The boisterous kid skulked into class. Good, that works. How about 2 others? Since he knew he was bourgeois, he skulked out of town. Well, that's a little strange, but that's okay. How about anybody, all 3 in one sentence? And the kids get into this. I mean, and this is a game. It's kind of fun. The crowd was getting boisterous, so the guy who was bourgeois skulked out of town. Yeah, sure, that works. And I'd eventually get one. Then I say, hey, can anyone take one of those and put an allusion in there? I want you to allude to Gilgamesh. Okay, references something famous, Gilgamesh. Gilgamesh, or how about Enkidu skulked to his house after fighting against Gilgamesh. Good, you've got an allusion. How about all 3 of these and one from yesterday? Well, and an allusion. Gilgamesh feebly picked up his javelin and skulked out of town because the boisterous bourgeois guy had insulted him. Sure, stupid sentence, but it works. All right, that's it for that. I've been in a big hurry. I think I made it in 10 minutes. So much for class vocabulary today.